figuring out how to manage your suppliers, so in effect help your cash flow. Figuring out how to encourage customers to pay, offering them settlement discounts. One of the biggest and simplest hacks is just timing your invoice in sync with their processes. So find a customer will have a cutoff of the 25th, and then you decide, no, you want to keep it nice and clean, so you run it 30 days and you give them a bill on the 1st. That's fine, but they're going to pay you another 30 days later. Whereas if you decide, okay, I'll run my cycle from the 26th to the 25th, so it coincides with theirs, then you get paid 30 days sooner. So that's a really simple hack. Making sure that what is on the invoice is what they need to pay you. So as simple as POs, purchase orders, making sure that the information they're required to sign off is sufficient on the invoice. So like if you're billing time, making sure the timesheets make sense, that they've been signed off. So all of those like silly steps that you think are silly make a big difference in getting paid early. And if you get paid early on time, then it makes your whole business run smoother. So that was a simple hack I learned very early on. Keep your overheads down, like at all costs. Commit to no overhead. Try not to sign long-term contracts. You can function without signing long-term contracts. And then I guess another big hack in the beginning is it's very hard to sign agreements and they all want you to sign personal surety. If you can avoid signing personal surety, avoid it literally at all costs. Push back until they insist that that's non-negotiable. So what I often find is if you pay a bigger deposit, then they won't need personal surety, for example. And in some cases with the banks, it's very hard to avoid because that's just how they operate. But with landlords and other lease agreements, I find most small business people lose out in their personal capacity because of sureties. That's where it goes wrong. And I don't know if it's a hack, but don't ignore the bad news. So one of the reasons my first partner and I failed was the bank manager would call and he would just ignore the call. So don't ignore the call from the bank manager, because then you're tying his hands. He only has one thing to do. He can just start bouncing your payments, your checks, whatever. Whereas if you phone him, he may still bounce everything, but at least you both know. But he may not. He may give you an extra few days. He may understand that you've got a big deposit coming in, whatever. He may understand. He's there to help. I remember negotiating, because back in the day, the first business, we also bought and sold computers and stationery and all of that stuff. And I remember phoning a supplier and saying I need to negotiate terms. And he shouted at me and he was like insistent that there's no terms and I need to pay immediately. And the reality is there was no money to pay him. So it was like, be honest, told him there's no money. What I can commit to is this payment cycle, or you're just not getting paid. So I didn't ask for anything in return except that he understood I'm going to pay him off. And eventually he agreed to it. And then for me, it's very important to stick to your word, because then when I had a further cash flow crisis, at least if I went back to him, he would understand, cool, he's still going to get paid. He doesn't have to, take other drastic decisions. He knew he was getting his money. It was just us in a cash flow crunch. But if you ignore him, if you ignore these problems, they just get bigger. So yeah, it's not really a hack. It's just like good behavior. And I think your suppliers respect you. They understand business is a cycle. So they will at some point, you go through that downward cycle. It's how you manage through that cycle that matters at the end of the day. And then suppliers respect you for it. And of course, it creates loyalty. I was always very supportive of those that helped me when things were tough.